I'd like to invite the next speaker, our plenary address, Beena Aminath, the Global Head of the AI Institute at Deloitte. Beena, welcome.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit to thinking big about AI. I'll give a little bit of my background before I jump in. I have been in the data AI space. AI before it was known as AI. I started out as a SQL programmer and grew through the ranks and saw the whole big data, business intelligence, AI coming to fruition now. One of the challenges I've seen, having been in this space too long, is, we are with AI, we're looking at use cases, right? I'm sure you hear that word constantly if you are in any part of the AI world trying to solve for enterprise. So as my background, I work primarily in the enterprise world. I have worked at banks, at manufacturing companies, in telecom. Don't ask me, I'm on my 9th job right now. But I have been fascinated on applied AI side. Taking what's happening in, whether it's coming from research or academia or big tech, taking those models and seeing how does it apply in a bank? How does it apply in manufacturing? What are the nuances that come with it? Whether it's impact to the workforce, the risk, compliance issues, or the future impact of it. So one of the challenges, as I said, is the use case problem that we have. I understand use cases are important. It's a new technology. We need to figure it out. But I have a poll for you. How transformational do you think AI is? Do you believe AI is once in a generation, once in a lifetime kind of technology compared to the cloud or mobile or internet? Do we believe as a room whether AI is a truly fundamentally transformative technology? We hear about it, right? I know you've had conversations yesterday where you heard how AI can be a cure for everything and anything that we work on, right? Sorry, I cannot see because of the reflection. Oh, I have a monitor. I'm trying to see the reflection. So it is a fundamentally transformative technology, right? And we in this room have the ability to completely rethink why are we focusing just on use cases? It's important. But, shouldn't we be wondering what are the different ways to do it from any aspect, right? Think of it from an organizational perspective. Think of it from a goal. Say you're a bank. Why is it organized in a certain way? It's organized to make humans work in a certain way. But I think it's an opportunity to take a step back and think about why do banks exist? Do we really need this kind of construct? If we try to follow the use case approach, we are just doing band-aids to existing processes that were built for humans only. You've all heard about agentic AI. You've heard of generative AI. You know there's massive potential. Why are we putting band-aids to existing processes, to existing organizations, instead of taking a step back and thinking, how do we reorganize? Right from the top to bottom. So I'll give you an example from a revenue perspective. We hear about ROI. I used to work at a manufacturer that manufactured jet engines, right? Now that's a physical equipment that still needs to be done. But if the end goal is to manufacture jet engines, is that an opportunity to look at completely from sourcing and supply chain to how materials are identified to identifying service issues? How do we organize for that in a world where AI is part of everything? How do we move away as an organization from a human-only approach as opposed to taking a step back and saying, do we even need certain teams in the group? Do we need different kinds of teams? We know there are new kinds of roles. I've certainly said this in the past as well. As any true AI leader, AI is not going to take away jobs. It's going to augment humans. We all say that. It's humans with AI. But there are going to be new roles, right? What are those new roles? But why think just about roles? Think about the structure itself. What does a CEO do? What does a COO do? Do we still need those kind of C-suite roles? Do we need to look at an organization completely differently? if you're selling jet engines, if you're manufacturing jet engines, we try to find, I've certainly worked on this use case, predicting jet engine failure so that you can proactively fix it, right? But with AI, can we think about where you have, I need to take a flight today, right? Where I can call, like we call an Uber, right? I will have a flight that comes here, picks me up over here, not a helicopter, it's as a service, and it's a drone, right? We have drones for package delivery. Why can't drones take humans? And what does that world look like, right? So I think we have an opportunity to really think beyond existing constructs and existing organizations to go outside that and look even bigger. Think about the auto industry. When I started my career, electric cars were, and I'm dating myself here already, but electric cars were too out far in the future, right? Now we are in a world where we know our kids will probably be living in a world where it's only fully self-driving cars. Then when we started the electric cars journey, then what does a car structure look like? Do we need a steering wheel? If there is no steering wheel, do we even, where does the airbag go, right? So it changes the full construct of safety, speed limits. If you think beyond just the immediate next 3 to 5 years, and you're thinking of 10 to 15 years, you can fundamentally rethink every organization we have, every kind of job that we do, and still maintain human life at a higher quality. So that's what I wanted to challenge this room with is, if you pull that electric vehicle or self-driving car thread, how do we think about a future where it's fully self-driving? Probably our grandkids or great-grandkids, they'll be surprised that everybody had to learn driving and had driver's license as user identity at one point, right? They're all because it's all going to be self-driving cars, and the cars are going to probably look like those drones I was describing. So, we need to start rethinking about that safety construct, the transportation of getting from point A to point B, whether you fly there using a car or whether you get on some kind of a road which is completely only self-driving cars are there. So the safety rules are different, the speed limits are different, the seat belt construct might be different, but humans will need to get from point A to point B, and that's what we're solving for. So if we can start fundamentally thinking what are the problems we're solving for and not fall for the current constructs, I think we have an opportunity, a generational opportunity to fundamentally set the foundation to do things differently. So that's my case for you, is don't think about use cases. Step out and look at your industry and think about what should change. Do we still need CEOs, CHROs, CLOs? Or are parts of it really about AI doing it? And are there new roles that come in? Why is it happening so incrementally and reactionary, as opposed to us taking a proactive approach to think bigger and differently? So I'm open to questions. I know there is another poll coming up. Looking to get, there's already 2 questions. I could see the question on your face, so that's why I paused.
Thank you. So it's a 2-part question. One is around explainable AI. So one is, personally, would you ever use a system, which is a black box today, where, especially if you would consume a system, where you don't know how it broke and you don't know how to fix it, right? So part of that explainable AI sort of question. And the flip side is, I'm also obsessed with this idea of, are agents going to make humans less productive? And how would you measure productivity of agents themselves if humans spend all their time reworking what agents do?
So the first part, I think it's a generational issue. It's like any other matter, right? I wouldn't. I wanted to use an AI system because I want to know how it works and why it's giving me certain errors. But we already see I see my kids, right? They're young adults, and I worry about privacy, for example, and they will happily give out their data to any app that entertains them for a short time, right? So I think with our generation, that might be I personally wouldn't, but I know the next generation or the next generation after that will definitely be using AI unless they have been trained about the pitfalls or some of the risks that they should be aware of. Your second question about was agents making humans unproductive. I bet on humans. I think humans will find a way to keep themselves busy, productive. We as a species cannot survive unless we use our brains. So I do think we will find opportunities to stay productive, busy, and it could become more purpose-driven. We might have more time to be more purpose-driven. The more important part I like about your question is how do we measure agents' productivity? That, again, if you think back to what I was saying, is a very narrow question. Agents is just one part. AI as a technology is still very early in its journey. Right? Last year was all about generative AI. This year is agentic AI. Next year, the way things are headed might be about physical AI or sovereign AI coming from EU. So there is a lot happening in the AI space. We are still very early in the journey. I think we have to think about humans and technology working together and what does productivity look like in that future. So expand to think beyond agents.
Hi, Vaibhav Parikh from Nishit Desai Associates. You rightly said we need to reimagine world in the future, and you said the next generation or 2 generations down will think why we had to learn driving, right? And I think that's a right way to think. But the next step would be flying cars, right? Mm-hmm. And that's already there. The drones, what you talked about, is a classic situation that instead of even we get to self-driving cars, we may just get into the flying cars. We may jump the thing, right?
Yeah.
And somebody will say why people had to drive the cars, right? Even the cars had to be.
Yeah.
The question which I have is, this keep on coming, and that's something beyond. So something will happen in 5 years, something will happen in 10 years, something will happen 15 years.
Yeah.
And if you have to reimagine, what is the time frame we need to look at it? Because there will always be some question which will keep on coming. Why this? You can go even further. Why this? You can go in further.
Yeah.
So the question is, when you have to do a transformative thinking,
yes,
what is the timeline you need to do when you do the transformative thinking, which is not incremental?
That's a great question. And human imagination to some extent is limited by what's known currently. Right? You are bound by this, you know what you know, right? The context that you have. I come at it because I've worked in so many industries. I talk to a lot of boards. I talk to a lot of CEOs and C-suite. And I see this use case specific problem and not having this transformative kind of approach. So it is going to be limited. But the way to think about it is, think of it as a North Star. Where do we want to get to? One of the common things is, cure cancer or, find a solution for poverty, right? If we set that as the goal, think about what organizations are needed and what does those organization constructs look like to do it. Is it a nonprofit scenario? Is it an enterprise and nonprofit kind of alliance scenario? Is it a single CEO, 2 CEOs, right? I'm trying to say, think of what's a North Star and work backwards on how to do it based on where AI is today and where AI is headed today. So having that North Star can be, when you cure for cancer, that's it, right? That's the end goal. Then you focus on the next illness. So I think it's not so much time-bound as more of a goal that you're trying to achieve. And rightfully so, right? With transportation itself is going to change. It might not be a car or a boat or an aeroplane, right? It can be just a box that gets you, it will self-optimize and get you from point A to point B in the fastest possible way, in the safest way, right? It doesn't need to fit in the current constructs that we know, but it can literally take any modes and the machine can choose for you, right? Last question.
Sorry, Prashant Kothari from Washington, D.C. So now if you look back over the last 20, 30 years, we've had all these inflection points, the internet, social media,
Yeah.
cloud and everything else. And all of them came with breathless claims that this was a once-in-a-generation
Yeah.
technology. So I think it's, maybe we're talking about dog years generation, because every 7 years we seem to be having once-in-a-generation technology.
Yeah.
And one of the claims, especially about the net, was that having access to the information available everywhere all at once would bring us closer together as humanity, which hasn't worked out. Right? In fact, it's had the opposite effect. So if you were to look 10 years out and do a little post-mortem, or what I actually call a pre-mortem, 10 years out, what do you see as the one or two biggest fears? You look back 10 years from now and say, listen, we had all these claims about AI, but actually it hasn't held up. What would you sort of prognosticate in that
Yeah,
front?
I think it's the learning from the past 10 years, right? If we had paused for a minute when the first social media app came out and none of us had just jumped in and signed because we wanted to connect with lost school friends, right? Where is all this headed? And as soon as ads started coming in and the need for profit started coming in, and you saw that the solution to it, that's where we should have advocacy groups, or we should have taken a proactive step to approach it, right? And that's what I'm trying to do for the next 10 years, so that we don't look back in 10 years and say, oh, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, a certain way. Maybe we shouldn't be thinking about agentic AI in this way, because when you play this out, it's not helping us get to our North Star. So I completely agree with you, and I think part of the reason to start thinking big and start thinking about that North Star as opposed to use cases and how to focus on that ROI part, right? To really think about the effects of it. I wrote a book on trustworthy AI, which kind of talks a little bit about what could have happened in the last 10 years, and how if we had proactively thought of it and put in the guardrails. There were those points at which we didn't, and none of us in this room proactively did that because we didn't think about it, right? It took me a while to get off social media, at least in the constructs that, where it was getting toxic, right? So yeah, there's no single answer except, what we can change for the future.